their seats. Hope everyone got a chance to get some cookies. You're welcome to bring cookies and coffee into the room, just so you know, for future reference. All right, so I'm Natalie Arroyo. I'm going to be your MC today for the Trail Summit 2022. Very delighted to see you all here today. Hi, everyone. And I want to give a big shout out to the Eureka High School Culinary Program for making those delicious cookies. So we have a student here today who's been in the kitchen baking them himself, so be sure to say hello. So I want to explain briefly how we're going to handle questions today. So we'll get started with presentations in just a few minutes, but we're going to go ahead and handle questions by having you write them down on the little sheets of paper that are on your chairs. If you need a sheet of paper, please, wave at one of us. We have a few folks who are going to be collecting the questions from you. So we kind of anticipate that you might have questions as you're hearing the presentation, stuff like that. We're also going to be having questions come in from online. So in order to kind of handle all that, we figured we'd bring them all to one common point so we can then make sure that we address them all. So these little yellow sheets of paper that you have on your chairs, or if you need one, if you actually need one now, feel free to go like this, and one of our lovely volunteers will help you out if you're missing one. So we have a few volunteers taking them. We have Una, Carol, and Karen. So this is Una here. We have Carol right there. And then Karen standing right there in the back. So they'll all be handling questions. And don't be shy about sticking up your paper and going like this if you're ready, or finding one of them. So we are going to be kicking things off with Hank Seaman, the Deputy Director of Humboldt County Public Works Environmental Services. He will be talking to us about some county trails developments. So without further ado, I'll invite Hank up here to move us along.
Good morning, everyone. Hank Seaman. I work for Humboldt County, and trails are a priority for the county. We've been working hard to develop county trails and also to support our regional partners. And we're also committed to the principle of trying to make trails accessible for as many people as possible and to serve all the communities in the county. We're just incredibly fortunate in Humboldt County to have so many opportunities to have experiences in the outdoors and to engage with the natural world. And when we travel through the outdoors, often it's done through trails. And our community in Humboldt has really wanted to improve and expand trails, to create opportunities to make trips that can substitute for vehicles, to have more experiences in the natural world, especially close to home. And so we've got lots of opportunities to expand trails, and we're fortunate that we have a very robust trails culture. Trails come in a lot of different forms. There are paved trails, there are natural surface trails, trails that function primarily for recreation, and then trails that are used for recreation and have a transportation function. And for natural surface trails in the forest and the dunes, we're really fortunate to have this network of trail builders, of volunteer trail builders. We're also fortunate to have donors, businesses and individuals who are contributing supplies and materials and funds to help those trails. For paved trails, we've got a network of professionals, of planners and engineers, construction contractors, people who are working hard to deliver these big trail projects. And our trail culture continues to evolve, and it's really heartening to see how through experience and practice and training and sharing of ideas, I think our trails are getting better. They're getting more sustainable, they're getting more accessible, they're getting safer, and and we're finding ways to develop trails in areas that create big challenges. And our trail culture is just very rich. I just wanted to highlight Dennis Houghton. Dennis worked for years for City of Arcata, helping to lead, especially with a lot of volunteer work, building of trails in Arcata Community Forest. Now Dennis is helping the county with trails in the McKay Community Forest. And Dennis is also teaching trail building at College of the Redwoods. And so Dennis has a lot of expertise in terms of looking at a landscape and seeing how trails can fit, how they can be sustainable, how you can work with drainage and soils and vegetation. So Dennis has been a real asset for our community. And he's building the next generation of trail builders with the skills and the knowledge and the creativity that can really move our trails forward. And then it's been great to work and see the work of the Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association. They've got actively involved in trail building in Blue Lake, soon in the McKay. And they're a user group that they like particular features on trails that provide good flow, and they've really developed a workforce and have ideas about how to develop mountain bike trails that really create fun and excitement. And so we've really got this robust trail culture, people who are really contributing to make our trails better. So I'd like to walk through some of the projects that the county has been leading. First and foremost, we've been working hard to deliver the Humboldt Bay Trail South project that would complete the connection between Eureka and Arcata along Highway 101, predominantly along the shoreline of Humboldt Bay. This is a complex project. We've needed to develop a design that integrates with the railroad and the highway. We're going by 2 industrial properties. We need to deal with damaged railroad that's creating flood hazards, and so part of our design makes really urgent repairs to the shoreline, and in some places we'll raise the railroad grade up to help provide some resilience for flood hazards and sea level rise. Part of this project includes removal of a portion of the eucalyptus trees on 101 to enhance the safety on the trail, and we're also working closely with Caltrans to design a cable barrier that will be located between the highway and the trail to enhance safety. We have 3 large funders. The State Active Transportation Program, the State Coastal Conservancy, and Caltrans are contributing funds for construction, and we have over $16 million secured for construction. We've been working over the last few years to secure permits and approvals. We have 13 permits in hand, and we have 2 remaining. And I'm confident that those will be issued. And right now, we're working to finalize the design plans and the bid package. This is a large infrastructure project. It goes out for competitive bids, and then we look at the lowest responsive bid. So we're working hard to finish the design plans so that we can go out to bid starting in January. So that's our milestone goal right now. We would go to the Board of Supervisors in January to approve the plans, to initiate the bidding process. And then that takes time. There's a defined process for that. And then, the qualified good news is that if the lowest construction bid is within the funds that we have available, then we'll be able to move forward with construction. There is another condition on this project that we've agreed with the Great Redwood Trail Agency that we would not remove any rails until the rail banking is approved by the Surface Transportation Board. And so we're very hopeful that the timing for that will align, and we'll hear more from Senator McGuire and Karen Geer from the Coastal Conservancy on the status of that. The Humboldt Bay Trail has really been a collaboration with local agencies and Caltrans, and the City of Eureka is completing a project that is achieving really important and valuable ecological restoration for the Elk River Estuary, just south of Eureka and south of Hickory Trail. And as part of that project, they're expanding the Hickory Trail by 1 mile so that there'll be a trail connection from the Hickory down to Tooby Road. And so this is really the frontier for expanding the Humboldt Bay Trail. We want to provide a connection from Eureka to King Salmon to Fields Landing to College of the Redwoods. And so last year, the county applied and was awarded a grant to do a planning study to extend the trail for approximately 3 miles down towards College of the Redwoods. That study did not start because we put it on hold due to the pending consideration of the rail banking proposal that North Coast Railroad Agency and then now the Great Redwood Trail Agency have submitted. That really needs to get resolved before we can really look at how we can use the rail corridor for a trail in that area. And so we're hopeful if rail banking can be approved soon that we can preserve that grant and continue with that study. So shifting over to forest trails, one of Humboldt County's big initiatives over the last few years has been developing the McKay Community Forest. So we acquired almost 1,200 acres of forest land from Green Diamond, working with the Trust for Public Land. And the picture on the left shows the extent of the community forest southeast of Eureka, along Cutton and Ridgewood Heights. And so on Tuesday next week, the Board of Supervisors at 2 o'clock on their regular Tuesday meeting, they will be considering approval of several plans and documents related to the community forest. So as staff, we've developed the McKay Community Forest Trail Plan, an environmental study for the trail plan, a forest stewardship plan, and also a non-industrial timber management plan. And so these plans will allow us to move forward managing the forest for multiple benefits, really following the City of Arcata's model for community forestry. There's opportunities for restoration. The intent is to perform timber harvest to generate revenue that will allow continued development of recreational facilities, and then creating public access and a full trail network. And so pending approval by the board of those plans on Tuesday, our intent is to open a portion of the community forest for public use on Thursday. So up until this point, the community forest hasn't been officially open, but we have developed a dedicated parking lot down on North Ridge Road in Cutton, and there's a set of trails there, probably 3 to 4 miles, that are still a work in progress, but they are ready for public use. And so our plan right now is, pending approval by the board on Tuesday, we'll be able to open the North Ridge parking area on Thursday afternoon for access to the first set of trails. McKay Community Forest is really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to create these forest trails just right in Eureka's backyard. A lot of people know this land. They have a connection to it. And once we can create suitable access points and trails, it's going to be accessible for a whole range of people of all ages and abilities, and people will be comfortable to be there. We still have a lot of work to do, and developing other access points is challenging. There's challenges at Harris Street by Redwood Acres. There's challenges around Redwood Fields. We're working to address those challenges. Those access points won't be officially open in the near term, but we're excited that we'll be able to open, hopefully, the North Ridge parking area very soon for public use. So doing trail projects requires developing partnerships, and the county and Caltrans developed a partnership several years ago to look at how we can help Manila become more walkable and bikeable. Manila is a community that's really split by the state highway, and we found this opportunity to collaborate to secure funds to develop a bike path At that time, those funds weren't accessible to Caltrans, but they were available to the county. So the county stepped forward and we accepted those funds and have worked to deliver this project. And so this project has developed a third of a mile of a paved path along Highway 255 that connects two neighborhoods that were otherwise really separated by only the state highway. And this has been a good project to advance the concept of developing separated bike paths within the state highway right-of-way. And Caltrans is really moving forward to enhance its programs and its emphasis on trying to implement complete streets and facilities for active transportation. So I think it's really a period of growth and optimism from my perspective working with Caltrans. But again, it takes time to develop the knowledge and develop the tools and just the experience of delivering projects. And so this was an early project to help us learn about different aspects of integrating trails on the highway right-of-way, and I'm hopeful that we'll see a lot of good work from Caltrans in the near future. So moving northward, a quick update about the Annie Mary Trail. The Annie Mary Trail is really, a companion to the Hammond Trail and the Humboldt Bay Trail as really a long-standing community vision for connecting Blue Lake and Arcata along the Mad River. I think the Friends of the Annie Mary Trail is one of the oldest long-standing trail organizations, really helping preserve that vision and encourage agencies to work together to try to achieve that vision. It can't all be done at once, and so it's required a strategy of looking for feasible opportunities. And the city of Blue Lake really, for a small city, they really stepped forward and were able to deliver a really valuable project to develop the first segment of the Annie Mary Trail within the city limits, and that was completed 2 years ago. And then the city of Arcata was working on the other end, and they were awarded funding for all phases of a project in Arcata and right on the edge of the city. Full funding for design and permitting and construction. And so they've been working through that first phase, the environmental review phase. That's coming to an end, and they'll be transitioning to the design and right-of-way, and then hopefully aiming for construction within 1 to 2 years. And so back on the Blue Lake side, Caltrans and Humboldt County have been working on trying to advance the Annie Mary Trail beyond Blue Lake, and the next logical step is to connect Blue Lake with the community of Glendale. And so we've been working on that for several years. Both county and the Caltrans have applied for funding. We haven't been successful so far, but Caltrans was able to secure funding to prepare what's called a project initiation document, which is really the foundation for thinking about any kind of transportation project, looking at the needs and opportunities, the standards, the options, the constraints, and developing a strategy for delivering that project. And so I think this is a really exciting step for Caltrans to prioritize this project. They just initiated that process, and the county will be supporting them, and along with Friends of the Annie Mary Trail and others, to try to develop a really viable strategy to deliver that project in the next few years. So the Hammond Trail, really Humboldt County's oldest trail, just tremendous work that was done in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s to build that in phases. The Hammond Bridge is at the southern end. It's a critical connection between McKinleyville and Arcata. It was a really creative project. Segments of that bridge were brought in 1941 to create a railroad bridge, and then in 1983 it was converted for trail use. That bridge is composed of steel, and it has not done well in the salty marine environment on the coast. It's it's beyond repair. And so we've known that for a few years. We've been working to try to find funding to initiate a replacement project. We're really fortunate that Congressman Huffman is an advocate for trails and active transportation. And just this year, he was able to secure $5 million in federal funds to really provide that base funding to move forward to consider replacing the Hammond Bridge. And so we don't yet have notice to proceed, but once that happens, we will move towards starting the design and the studies and trying to work to secure the full funding for that project. But we really want to have a plan to replace that bridge to avoid any interruption of connection. It's an exciting time for trails, and our community has taken on some ambitious projects. They've taken time to develop, but trail projects really inspire community involvement, and they inspire passion to bring them to completion. And we have certain projects that happen in steps, and then we have other trails that are just being developed incrementally. I think people who support trails are really driven by something deep inside. They want trails to have opportunities to connect with the natural world, to spend time and be with people they care about and their neighbors, and really to leave a legacy of opportunities for meaningful experiences for our young generation and then future generations. And so it's really been heartening for me to be part of the trail community, people who have passion and tenacity to really advance trails and make them better. So it's been a pleasure talking with you about county projects, and I'll be available after the talk if people have comments or questions or feedback. And I'd like to now start a short video that really highlights the value of the Volunteer Trail Stewards program and how meaningful that's been to our county trails.
Hi, I'm Rachel Garcia, Volunteer Trail Stewards Coordinator and a board member of the Humboldt Trails Council. In this video presentation, we'll be showcasing our Volunteer Trail Stewards program, or VTS, which provides maintenance to many trails throughout Humboldt County. Each trail site has their own core group of volunteers that typically meet on a monthly basis. Today, we'll be featuring 4 of those trails and some of the wonderful volunteers that work to maintain them. Let's begin on the southern edge of the Humboldt Bay Trail in Eureka at the Hickshari Trail.
Hi, my name is Mark Freitas, crew leader for the VTS crew at the Hickshari Trail. We've been working here for about a decade with a lot of help from a dedicated core group of regulars. Hickshari is the Wiyot word for Elk River, and this trail segment runs from the Pound Road access on the south end, which is at the Herrick Avenue Park and Ride, and follows the course of Elk River to the end of Hillficker Lane. The Hickshari features trails through coastal willows, along freshwater ponds, dune habitat, and of course Elk River. It's an especially good area for bird watching with lots of species of shore and water birds both in the ponds and the bay. There's also coastal access to the sandy beach south of Elk River, so there's lots of recreational activities available. The Hickshari has something for everyone. We work hard to keep the trail safe and looking beautiful for visitors. That mostly entails picking up litter, removing any hazardous material or obstructions on the trail, and keeping invasive non-native plants from overgrowing the habitat. Weeding and string trimming takes up much of our work days, but we do plant native shrubs and flowering plants along the trail in the wetter months and water them to keep them going in the drier months of the year, which provides visual interest for hikers as well as food and habitat for native wildlife. We welcome everyone to come out and join us. There is always room for more volunteers. The more visitors we have on the trail, the greater the likelihood that more trails would be built, so people will have even more places to explore. So come out and explore the Hickshery and all it has to offer.
Now, let's head up the Bay Trail to the Eureka Waterfront North Trail section.
Hi, I'm Dennis Houghton,
And I'm Pam Halstead.
and we're the Volunteer Trail Stewards Coordinators for the Eureka Waterfront Trail North. We coordinate monthly workdays by contacting volunteers and city personnel, organizing tools and arranging activities that will enhance the trail experience for all. Our 2-mile-long trail section is the most recent addition to the 6-mile Eureka Waterfront Trail and was completed in 2016. It extends from Tidd Street to the Adorney Center. The trailhead is located on Tidd Street and winds its way underneath Highways 101 and 255, which gives trail users a unique perspective of salt marshes and Humboldt Bay.
You can walk, run, and bike over bridges and a boardwalk to view wide expanses of the bay, where shorebirds, waterfowl, and harbor seals can be seen, as well as kayakers, crew boats, and stand-up paddleboarders. Workday activities include removal of graffiti, trash, and non-native or invasive vegetation, such as fennel, pampas grass, and Himalayan blackberries.
The Eureka Waterfront Trail North workdays are held every third Saturday of each month from 9 to 11 a.m.
We meet at the foot of X Street in front of the Blue Ox Millworks.
Trail stewards are community members who care about our local trails, and their services are vital to sustaining trail development. Without VTS, governmental entities would not be able to fully maintain trails due to limited funding and staffing. Thanks to volunteers and continued partnerships with local agencies, the VTS program has been branching out and spreading its impact. Within the past year, Trail Stewards provided over 4,800 hours of trail maintenance throughout 10 different trail sites and added 2 newly active trail sites, including the McKay Community Forest in Eureka.
My name is Robert Vogt. I work for Humboldt County Public Works. Today we're working in the McKay Community Forest. We've got great community support. Volunteer trail stewards have been a big part of that. Approximately 1,200 acres are contained in the McKay Community Forest.
In that 1,200 acres, we plan to have approximately 31 miles of trails for all user groups, from multi-use to single-use.
With our trail building efforts out here in the McKay Community Forest, we're not shy about taking all levels of experience. You can come out here and be your first trail building experience, or you could be a veteran, but we use a wide variety of tools and there's training that goes along with the use of those tools. For trail clearing and grubbing, we typically use McLeods and Pulaskis. We use vibroplates for compacting our ADA trails and other trails in the forest. There's also a lot of brush clearing, so there's a wide variety of equipment and tools used out here, and we definitely provide training and support on the proper use of those.
For additional information on the trail plan and management of the McKay Community Forest, please visit the Humboldt County homepage and go to the Parks and Campgrounds button at the top of the page. Then click on the McKay Community Forest tab on the left margin.
Now let's head north to the McKinleyville Land Trust trails.
Hi, I'm Julie Neander and I volunteer with the McKinleyville Land Trust. The McKinleyville Land Trust is an all-volunteer nonprofit that conserves local open spaces in McKinleyville for ecological, educational, recreational, and scenic values. We rely on fundraising and our generous donors and volunteers to help us manage the 74-acre forested Mad River Bluffs and Chagacho, a 9.5-acre coastal grassland and native forest. These outdoor open spaces provide wonderful opportunities for our community and visitors to our area to enjoy quietly wandering through the forest, listening to birds and the ocean, catching up with friends on a walk, and watching beautiful sunsets. The McKinleyville Land Trust joined the Volunteer Trail Stewards in 2021 to co-sponsor workdays at both Mad River Bluffs and Chagacho. We also schedule additional workdays with community groups, area schools, and Cal Poly Humboldt. Volunteers learn about the ecology of these special places while helping us maintain the trails and/or improve their habitats by assisting with invasive plant removal. We would love to have you join us and learn more about these great community resources on any of our regularly scheduled workdays. Feel free to contact us via our website, info@mckinleyvillelandtrust.org, or at 707-839-LAND if you are interested in our regular workdays or in arranging a specific work event with us.
Volunteer Trail Stewards is a program of the Humboldt Trails Council. For more information on volunteering, visit humtrails.org and click on the Volunteer tab. You can also check the calendar of events for more details on workday times and locations. Thank you, and we hope to see you on the trails.
Beautiful video. I feel so inspired seeing that. It really featured some groups that are near and dear to my heart, the Volunteer Trail Stewards, which is a program of the Humboldt Trails Council. And I'm just so thrilled to see the progress that we're making locally with trails. Hank Seaman, thank you so much for your presentation and all your dedication to so many of those projects that are advancing now. It is an exciting time in Humboldt County for trails, isn't it? There's a lot happening. 10, 15 years ago, I know I couldn't have imagined that all of this would be coming to fruition in this moment. It was just hard to know really how it was going to proceed. And now that we're having all this trail construction at once, it feels incredibly inspiring and motivating. And I know that so many people in this room have dedicated incredible work. So I just want to thank you all for being here and participating in whatever ways you have. And so the next big thing is the Great Redwood Trail. It is really exciting, and there's some great developments. So without further ado, I want to introduce two very special guests. So we have our Senate Majority Leader, State Senator Mike McGuire here. And we also have Karen Geer from the State Coastal Conservancy, who's also the interim executive director for the Great Redwood Trail Agency. So, I'm going to pass it off to them to talk to you about the Great Redwood Trail, but just a reminder, if you have questions about the last presentation or anything you've heard so far, please utilize these yellow cards. If you have questions now, feel free to just stick them up and somebody will come grab your questions. So we'll have a Q&A session after this next presentation. So be sure to write them down and pass them to the outside. All right.
Sorry, no, I don't want to drop it. And then if you need a second microphone.
Thank you so much. Hey, good morning, everybody. How's it going? It's so good to see you, and it is good to be back in person. Just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. First and foremost, we are so excited that Natalie is going to be joining the Board of Supervisors. Can we give it up to Supervisor-elect L'Oreal? My goodness, good stuff. My goodness. Joining, of course, we have Supervisor Wilson and Madrone here today, so it's so good to see you. And if we can give another round of applause to the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Hank Seaman. He has just been amazing to be able to work with. It's good to see you. Thank you so much. And I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to be here, and just want to say thank you to the Humboldt Trails Council for their incredible leadership over these past many years. And let's just be honest, the last 3 years have been some of the toughest in our lifetime. And I'm a firm believer. As we come out of this pandemic, we're going to come back stronger. And one of the reasons is this: the world has a new recognition about how truly important parks, open space, and trails are for our well-being and the well-being and the future of our communities. Am I right? We've known this in Northern California forever. Parks and open space and our watersheds are part of our DNA. And we live in a truly remarkable place. The North Coast is like nowhere else. Ancient redwoods and wild rivers, our rugged coastline. We're home to more diverse species and ecosystems here in Northern California compared to anywhere else in the United States of America. And that's why together over these past several years, we've taken a stand to be able to protect the 320-mile public right-of-way that is the former North Coast Rail Line that traverses some of the most sensitive and spectacular landscapes on the face of this planet. And opportunities to be able to build projects like the Great Redwood Trail, they come along maybe once in a few lifetimes. So that is why I'm a firm believer. Now is our time. Now is our time together to be able to move with speed. That's right, let's do it. To be able to move with speed. To be able to move with speed and to be able to move with purpose, to be able to protect this public right-of-way in perpetuity. The time is now for the Great Redwood Trail, and I gotta say, it's where it all started, right here in Humboldt County. Let's give it up for Humboldt County and the Humboldt Trails Council, please. And here's why I'm so excited. The Great Redwood Trail has incredible momentum. Thanks to the unbreakable bond and the partnership between the County of Humboldt, the Humboldt Trails Council, cities of Blue Lake, Arcata, Eureka, and Fortuna, we are on the move with the Great Redwood Trail. We're on the cusp of permanently protecting 160 miles of the 320 miles of the long abandoned right-of-way. That 160 miles will be going from Willits all the way to the peninsula in Samoa. And we're doing this because here on the North Coast, we believe it's our duty. It is our duty to be able to advance a vision for our communities that protect our open spaces and watersheds, to be able to help build a more equitable economy, which we desperately need, and one that will lift rural communities out of poverty. And trails and outdoor recreation do that. And this is who we are. These are our values of the North Coast. And like never before, the American public, they crave the opportunity to be able to connect with nature and do good with the dollars that they spend. And make no mistake, we're here, the momentum is moving thanks to the dedication of each and every one of you in this room. For the last few years, we have been working hard to be able to pass the policy, secure the funding, and develop the infrastructure to to create an experience like no other with the Great Redwood Trail. This 320-mile long trail will be the largest converted rail trail in the United States of America. The trail is going to become the spine of the North Coast, with numerous trails and recreational opportunities branching off, connecting our communities, connecting our state parks and national forests and watersheds. And we have been busy during the pandemic, getting the work done to start building the Great Redwood Trail. Is it all right if we get into some of those details? All right, let's do it. So first and foremost, I am so thrilled to announce that for the first time in over 3 decades, the North Coast Railroad Authority, who has been near bankruptcy for the vast majority of those 3 decades, the North Coast Railroad Authority no longer exists. So now in their place, ladies and gentlemen, we got the Great Redwood Trail Agency, whose sole mission is to work with each and every one of you in this building to be able to build the trail. They are in place and we're moving the trail forward. We have this amazing California state agency, the California State Coastal Conservancy, who we're going to hear from in just a few moments, that will be overseeing it. No pressure to Karen Gear. My goodness. But you could not pick anyone better than Karen. And here's the other big piece. We've got the dollars in the bank to plan it and to build it. So let's talk about that. So there have been a lot of questions and a lot of comments saying there is no way in hell, this is a pipe dream. You're never going to be able to fund this. And what we got to say is thanks to the organizing and mobilizing of so many in this room and throughout the North Coast, the dollars are in the bank. We're going to be able to not only plan for the Great Redwood Trail, we're going to be able to build the Great Redwood Trail. Here's what we're going to do. We secured $10.5 million in the bank now, $10.5 million, to pay for the staffing and master planning of the Great Redwood Trail. That's how we've been able to launch the agency. And this is going to take us over the next several years of hard work planning the trail. Number 2, and this is big, $500 million. We've been able to secure $500 million for the State Coastal Conservancy for projects that are going to help fight our climate crisis and build trails of statewide significance, including the Great Redwood Trail. $500 million. Are you ready to go, Humboldt County? Let's do this. So this is huge news. This is huge news. This is a game changer, because how many ideas, wonderful ideas that society has come up with, never had the dollars to do it. We have the dollars in the bank to be able to execute this vision. And never before has there been so much funding. Never before in our state's history has there been so much funding available for the kinds of projects that we are so excited to work with the Coastal Conservancy to be able to build and to be able to build that Great Redwood Trail network. So let's keep with the good news going right now. And I want to talk about another $10 million that we were able to secure. So $10 million, working with Assemblymember Jim Wood, we've been able to help purchase the iconic Lone Pine Ranch in the middle of the Eel River Canyon. So this ranch includes, it is spectacular, 30,000 acres, smack dab in the middle of the Eel River Canyon, 30,000 acres of wilderness and forest that run along about 18 miles of the Eel River. Now, we're going to put in about 12 miles of the Great Redwood Trail along those 18 miles where the former rail line runs. And we've partnered with the Wildlands Conservancy to open up this land for public access in perpetuity. Forever, it is going to be yours. And in addition to the 12 miles of riverfront trail that we're going to develop, we're going to be building out campgrounds, restrooms, and a river launch, along with a trail network that you'll be able to traverse the rest of the property. And we're going to be able to build the first 12 miles there in the Eel River Canyon within the next 18 months. We'll have it completed, which we are so excited about. So let's talk about where we're going. We're going to talk about rail banking, and we're going to start nerding out on rail banking. Are you ready to go? So this is our next big step. So what the hell is rail banking? Let's talk about it right now. It's literally securing the rail corridor. And there's a federal process that we're going to have to be able to work through. To understand why rail banking is a threat to the Great Redwood Trail, I'd like to get into and dig into a little-known federal agency called the Surface Transportation Board. So this small federal agency oversees rail banking, securing rail to go into trail. And rail banking is just what it sounds like. You literally are able to bank a rail line so it stays a transportation corridor forever. It stays in public hands and it can't be broken up. And it allows for trails. Back in the late 1980s, Congress passed the rail to trail legislation that allows the STB to be able to ensure that trails can be built on former freight rail lines. In fact, 25,000 miles of former freight rail line has been converted to trail over the last 30 years across the United States of America. Less than 100 miles of the 25,000 miles have ever gone back to freight. They've remained in public ownership in trails ever since. But here's the challenge. There are threats. So y'all remember that ridiculous proposal, the toxic coal train that came through? As ridiculous as it was reality. And the reason why I say that is they actually filed with the Surface Transportation Board to be able to secure the rail line that we're going to build the Great Redwood Trail on. And we had to spend a significant amount of funding to fight it. Because before the line is rail banked and turned into a trail, under the law, the Surface Transportation Board asks any and all rail shippers across the United States if they want to operate the line as a freight train line. So first dibs goes to a viable freight operator. And coal is among the most viable in the country. So I will also say the federal government's process is antiquated and it's slanted towards freight railroad. So when this anonymous and mysterious Wyoming LLC filed to be able to transport coal, we had to take it seriously. And I got to tell you, the North Coast fought back like never before. Y'all erupted in protests. Over 15,000 signatures were put onto a petition, literally to fight thousands of coal cars running through our communities every month. And guess what? People over profit. It worked, ladies and gentlemen, so which is just fantastic. We were able to beat back and stop the toxic coal train. But I got to tell you, we got another fight in front of us. We have another fight in front of us, and that's with the skunk train out of Mendocino County. Now, they want to run a freight operation on the southern portion of the Great Redwood Trail. And look, I'm going to be the first to say, I love the skunk train. As a Cub Scout, I was able to take the skunk train as a kid. I think many of us in this room have taken the skunk train or taken our grandkids and kids to the skunk train. I love them. They are a historic excursion train that runs tourists and rail bikes through the forest around Fort Bragg. They specialize in picnics and live music and camping. All of that is well and good. But unfortunately, for a variety of reasons, they also want to be able to potentially get into the freight rail business. So they have now filed to take over a portion of the line that to be able to run freight. So they say that they want to run gravel from north of Willits to Fort Bragg. Now that said, they've got some challenges. And I want to talk about those challenges now. Number one, you can't run a train from Fort Bragg to Willits because the tunnel collapsed. So that tunnel has been shut down since 2015. It's going to take $30 million to be able to fix the tunnel. They don't have the financial resources to be able to fix the tunnel. If they did, it would have been fixed by now. Now, number two, not only do they need to come up with the $30 million to be able to fix the tunnel, to be able to have a viable freight operation, according to the Great Redwood Trail Agency, it's going to cost them another $40 million to be able to buy out that 13-mile rail corridor that they want to run north of Willits, down to Willits. So once again, it's up to all of us today. It's up to all of us to be able to stand up and stand strong for this cherished public right-of-way. And like the coal train, we're going to take this threat seriously. So just last week, the Great Redwood Trail legal team filed our paperwork fighting this proposal, and now it's ultimately going to be up to the Surface Transportation Board to be able to make a final decision. We firmly believe that we're in a good position, but we're going to continue to throw everything we've got at it. So once the Surface Transportation Board makes the decision on this 13 miles, we're going to be able to be free to rail bank the line and begin the process of master planning. So once again, our proposal is this. By mid next year, we rail bank the line from the city of Willits up to Samoa. That's 160 miles. And if it all goes as planned, and we continue to organize and mobilize, that rail line will be in public hands forever. We will start moving on the Great Redwood Trail. And that is a big segue to master planning. We couldn't be more excited to be able to kick off the big master plan for the Great Redwood Trail. And I'm happy to report that we have our kickoff meeting planned. Mark your calendars for October 24th. We're going to be doing a region-wide master plan kickoff. We've decided to do it virtually just to be able to involve as many folks as possible. That will be the evening of Monday, October 24th. We're going to be getting you details on that as soon as we nail all the final speakers down. But here's what the master plan is going to do. It's going to help us determine trail construction costs. It's going to help us determine the alignment, the ongoing operating costs, what type of material we're going to use. By the way, 90% of the Great Redwood Trail, approximately 90%, will be a backcountry trail, literally putting dirt and gravel on top of the rail line. That's it. And we can do that for about $12,000 to $15,000 a mile. The master plan will also be focusing on what the timeline is for build out. Where are we going to build first? We're going to be talking about long-term governance. We're going to be talking about environmental challenges and, of course, wildfire prevention. And we're also going to be advancing a security study. And each and every one of you in all the communities that connect to this trail will be at the table. This is going to be a long master planning process, no less than 36 months. So expect about a 3-year process, could go a little longer, but we want to make sure that we build this trail right, not fast. You're going to have significant community meetings, and the State Coastal Conservancy is the perfect organization to lead it. They have literally spent decades working with communities here on the North Coast on protecting our most cherished lands and advancing environmental projects. They have been the lead funder for park projects, open space, environmental rehabilitation, vegetation management programs, and we are so lucky to have them. And I want to introduce you to our executive director. She is fantastic, and she has 2 jobs. So not only is she right now the executive director for the Great Redwood Trail, she is also continuing her current duties as a lead manager at the State Coastal Conservancy. She lives here on the North Coast. We are so lucky to have her. And as the interim executive director for the Great Redwood Trail, Karen has spent untold amount of time making sure that we are able to protect and preserve our most cherished spots. She's going to be getting into kind of the nuts and bolts of what the Coastal Conservancy will be doing with the master plan and what to expect. And then I'm going to wrap it up here right after she's done. So without further ado, can we please give a round of applause and say thank you to Karen Keir.
Good morning, everybody. It's always a challenge following our Energizer Bunny, Senator McGuire. I don't want to bring the room down because I'm quieter. But anyway, I'm very excited to be here, and it is always a pleasure to be up in Eureka. And hearing again, these projects are going on, but when they're all put out, in a presentation like this, it's really exciting to see the progress that has happened up here over the years. So I thought I would start just because I recognize a lot of faces, but I don't recognize everybody. So just a little background on the Coastal Conservancy. We are a state agency. This is our mission statement. I'm not going to read everything on it. But we are not the Coastal Commission. We are often confused with the Coastal Commission. We don't give permits. We can't tell you what to do on your property. We are the projects agency of the state's coastal zone management program. The green shows our jurisdiction, which is basically coastal draining watersheds in the 9 Bay Area counties. It may seem like it's a green sliver down the coast, but it's actually 75% of the state's population lives in that green band. So we are serving all those people as well as all the visitors to the coast. So what do? We fund projects we fund partners to carry out projects, and it's really exciting, as I said, to see a bunch of the trail projects that were on there are projects the Conservancy has been able to support over the years with the projects that you all want for your communities. So. In fact, when I came to the North Coast as a regional manager back in 1998, one of the first projects I think we funded was the Humboldt Bay Trail Plan. And back then it wasn't the Great Redwood Trail, it was the Humboldt Bay Trail. And to see those pieces being built along the trail corridor, while this vision was cooking up on the Great Redwood Trail is just fantastic. So that we already have a jump start on the Great Redwood Trail. But I think the other thing that makes the Conservancy a little unique is our willingness to provide technical assistance and planning money. And a lot of agencies, everybody wants to be there for the groundbreaking, right? That's the super exciting part. And yet the amount of work that it takes from the communities and the partners and our elected officials to get to that point, that's a huge amount of work. And somebody has to pay for that, and somebody has to help that happen. And it's something the Conservancy's been doing for many decades. So in terms of our program areas, they basically fall into these 3 categories. Explore the Coast is our public access program, which includes both trail building and acquiring lands for trails, but also programs like our Explore the Coast Small Grants program. And I'm happy that just 2 days ago we held our board meeting in Fort Bragg, and there were several North Coast Explore the Coast grants. RCAA received one. There are ongoing ones for some others up here in Humboldt. So that's our public access program. We also have Protect and Restore the Coast, so that's our restoration projects. It's great driving up and seeing all the work that's going on at the Elk River. It's a project the Conservancy's been involved in with the City of Eureka for a long time. And it's so exciting to see how much happened this summer on that project. There's a lot of movement. And then we also have climate change, right? Something that's newer to our program. People weren't thinking about that when the Conservancy was created back in the late 70s. So Climate Ready includes both thinking about sea level rise, but also thinking about fire adaptation and habitat change over time. So we, thanks in part to the work of our senator here, we have money the last few years for fire projects, and that was also another. Thursday was a big agenda at the Conservancy. We had a number of fire projects, including projects out at the Mattole for the Prosper Ridge restoration and firework, a project with Shelter Cove to help buy fire equipment to help trim vegetation and manage the roads out there. So as the senator said, it's a great time to be working for the Coastal Conservancy. This was this fiscal year, so we do hope that another 150 is coming next year, I think, right, Senator? But we received $350 million this year for coastal resilience projects and an additional $137.5 specifically for sea level rise projects. The definition of coastal resilience is actually pretty broad. I highlighted in yellow the one I think you all care about today, which is non-motorized trails of statewide significance are eligible for funding under this pot of money. And what do we mean by non-motorized statewide significance trail? Well, the California Coastal Trail, a project the Conservancy has been working on for decades. It's fantastic. We love the Coastal Trail. It's challenging because, unlike the Great Redwood Trail, we don't have the right-of-way all in one fell swoop, and so we have to build it as we can as we get easements and acquisitions done to build the trail. Some of the other statewide trails we're working are statewide significance, Santa Ana River Trails down the South Coast, the San Francisco Bay Trail, and the Ridge Trail, and the Water Trail. And then, of course, the one we're super excited up here for the North Coast region, which is the Great Redwood Trail. I'd like to introduce now our team who's working on it. We've been able to hire 2 new project managers at the Conservancy. Luisa and Simone, would you like to stand up? So Luisa Morris, we stole Luisa Morris away from the Sonoma Ag and Open Space Preservation District, but if any of you did work in Mendocino County, you probably know Luisa from her years at the Mendocino Land Trust and the Redwood Coast Land Conservancy and the County of Mendocino working on public access projects, designing, planning, and building trails. So she has great background. And then we stole Simone from the Bay Area Ridge Trail, and she also has experience prior to that working in Florida on building trails, but she's been working with communities in San Francisco Bay, helping to plan and design and construct the Ridge Trail, which goes around the 9 Bay Area counties. So we're super lucky to have these 2 trail professionals we were able to snatch up this summer. And then we also have a office manager / board clerk, Heidi Torres, who works out of our little office in Ukiah. Luisa and Simone and I got to spend some time cleaning files there yesterday, so it won't be as dusty should you ever come and visit us down there. The Great Redwood Trail Agency itself it has members from Marin, Sonoma, Mendocino, and Humboldt County. We have Steve Madrone as our vice chair. Steve, where did you go? You work here. Oh, there he is, hiding in the back. Very excited. Steve and I have worked together for, 30 years, something like that, maybe longer. Dating myself, I was a mere child. But Steve is our vice chair. Carol Hart is our chair of the board. We were so lucky to have these 2 huge trail enthusiasts and advocates as our board chair and vice chair. And then frankly, the rest of the board are all super excited about this transition. They are no longer the rail agency; they are the trail agency. And we had our first meeting with the consultants this last week on Monday for the consultant team to meet the board and talk about how the board will be engaged in master planning, and just the questions that came from the board and the excitement and enthusiasm for being part of this process was really great to see. The GRTA itself is responsible for managing the corridor. As you said, we own it right now. We are working through that rail banking process. As Senator McGuire gave you a brief rundown, it's daily 20, 30 emails, it feels like, of things going back and forth. There's entertaining reading if you like this if you want to nerd out on it. Get on the State Transportation Board, look up filings, Great Redwood Trail Agency, and you can see the filing from last week where we are rebutting some of the proposals from the skunk train. We will be leading the master plan process. So we were asked, as the Coastal Conservancy, we've had a lot of experience over the years working with communities on planning processes. And so we were asked to step in and take on this role, and we said, sure, it sounds great. Who wouldn't want to do that? This is a fantastic, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And so we have Simone and Luisa are managing our consultants. As the Senator said, we have a kickoff meeting coming soon, but between now and October 24th, the main focus of the team is figuring out the community engagement strategy, because we recognize that is really critical, because most of the people in this room may well be trail advocates, but not everybody out in the world is a trail advocate. And so we need to work through those issues. We need to find where the sticking points are and where the concerns are, and how we can address the concerns, and how we can be protective of private property. People are not used to having the trail walk, people walking past their house or their ranch, and so we have to figure out how can we do that sensitively and make sure that we aren't causing problems for the adjacent landowners. And then we also will be coordinating with SMART, because the portion of the rail line from Mendocino through Marin was transferred to SMART, and they are going to be developing rail with trail there, as they have the SMART train, which goes right now as far as Santa Rosa, and one day will probably go as far as Cloverdale. So we want a coordinated trail. It's bay to bay, as we say, San Francisco Bay to Humboldt Bay. I think it's a super exciting time to be a part of this. Senator McGuire said we're going to take 3 years. We're hoping we'll do less. So we hope we will do it shorter. But we will take the time that we need. So the consultants are working, hoping to get a draft plan or a final plan done in 2024. But if we need to take longer, we'll take longer, because it's important to get it right. So there will be about half of our budget is allocated to the community engagement part of the project. There will be many opportunities for the community to participate. There will be both live, in-person and Zoom meetings. There will be subcommittees. There will be all kinds of ways for people to get involved and participate. And as we move forward, we will hopefully be moving into construction projects and planning grants, and as part of that, also looking at the restoration opportunities, because we've already done projects in the past in the Eel River Canyon with Caltrout or for fish improvement projects. There will be more of those opportunities as we are able to take a harder look. I mean, the NCRA was always struggling in debt, and they couldn't be proactive, and we'd like to be proactive and plan those restoration projects into our trail projects. For efficiencies, and to get both our habitat and our public access goals done at the same time. So how can you get involved? This is the new landing page the consultants have just put up as of last night. So if you, greatwoodwardtrailplan.org, this is going to be the website for the planning process. If you go there now, you can click and get added to the mailing list for the e-newsletter. I would recommend that you all do that, so you get alerted when we have these opportunities for public engagement. And I think that's what I had for you.
We are so lucky to have Karen and the Coastal Conservancy leading the way. And I want to end it right here with some thank yous. First and foremost, we cannot say thank you to the Humboldt Trails Council enough. You have been leading the way, right? Give them a round of applause, please. You have been leading the way before the Great Redwood Trail even became a thing. We are grateful, and truly mean this would not be happening without the council. And we've always known that creating the Great Redwood Trail wasn't going to be quick or easy. It's an ambitious project. We have one opportunity in our lifetime to be able to do it right. And that's what we're about to kick off. It's 320 miles long, involves multiple cities, dozens of our communities, 4 counties, multiple tribes, state agencies, as well as the federal government. This master planning process, it's going to be robust. We're going to go from communities to kitchen tables, being able to talk through the concerns. And I promise you, we are going to work through those issues. So the biggest challenge in front of us is time. It's going to take us some time to be able to do it right. But that is what our commitment is. We're going to do this right and not fast. I want to end it right here. Over the last 2 years, we've had some damn big fights. That said, we've won them all. And who would have thought just 5 years ago we'd be sitting in this room with a state agency running the trail, the North Coast Railroad Authority out of business, $500 million in the bank, plus $10.5 million moving forward on the master planning process. And the only reason this happened is because of each and every one of you. You made it happen. This has been the vision of this community for so long. So I just want to say thank you. We have some of the best trail planners in the business on our side, some of the best legal team on our side to be able to win at the STB. And we cannot tell you how much we appreciate your hard work and look forward to having a conversation here today. I'm going to turn it back over to Supervisor-elect, and thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity to be with you. Thank you, Madam Supervisor.
Okay, we've got a couple of roving mics. I'm going to hand you that. Okay, and I think we're going to need Hank back up here for some questions, if you wouldn't mind. So let's see. For the video, where does it make sense for the Q&A participants to stand? Is it okay for them to just be kind of up front here? Okay, great. If I could ask you all to go kind of front and center, because you'll be answering the questions, that'd be fantastic. All right, so we have about 15-ish minutes for questions, and I want to encourage folks, if your question doesn't get answered, there's some folks in the back tabling, and they'll be able to help you out as well, and I know we have a lot of knowledgeable folks in the room. So without further ado, let's start with one of the questions that I think might be Senator McGuire and Hank Seaman shared. What are some of the contingency plans for sea level rise in the portion of the Great Redwood Trail around the bay?
Can you all hear me? Yeah. All right, here we go. So, on the issue of sea level rise, so number one is, all right, we're going to get on. All right, let's try that one. All right, here we go. Hot damn. Number one on sea level rise. So the master plan process is going to be identifying where some of the challenges may be when we take a look at sea level rise from the Humboldt Bay. Two, when it comes to sea level rise, and especially when it comes to the levees where the trail will be built upon, it's now going to be under permanent ownership by the state of California. So we know that the state of California is going to invest in the asset that they're building. And so it's actually going to benefit this community rather than turning it back over to a private landowner where we know it may be inconsistent on to be able to protect the levee in which it exists. The last thing I'm going to say is we just passed a $54 billion climate action budget in the state of California. It's the largest climate action budget out of any state in the United States of America. And it's going to also provide communities, public agencies, the resources they need to be able to manage retreat. So in the master plan process, we'll be looking at what the trail path may be, and then also looking at contingency plans of what we may need to do based off of where we think the sea may be inundating here in the years to come. So it's going to be part of the master plan process, and it's going to be a significant focus for the Coastal Conservancy and the board as we move forward. But Karen, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Well, yeah, I think you had really addressed it, but I will just say, and Hank can speak to the project that's about to be constructed next year, but certainly sea level rise is considered in any of the projects that the Conservancy funds. It's actually one of our criteria when we're analyzing projects is, have you considered climate change, and sea level rise being a main portion of that. So I know the City of Arcata's project, they were the first one to build along their tracks, and that considered sea level rise, and that, how you will adapt over time, because yes, sea level's going to come up, and the portions around the north part of the bay here are in low spots. So they will have to adapt over time, but it was considered and it will be considered. And I guess the good news is much of what's within the sea level rise footprint is already getting planned and constructed right now. So we're sort of ahead of the game on that one.
Karen mentioned that her vision is for the Conservancy to plan the trail and restoration concurrently. And that's, I think we also have sea level rise as part of that. And really fortunate that for the last few decades, NCRA has just not had the resources, and their infrastructure has not been maintained, and there was no prospects for investment in the infrastructure. So the railroad has become the de facto levee in certain areas of the bay, and that's part of the reason why the county's Bay Trail South project is more expensive. It's taking more time because we need to make repairs and to make that corridor more resilient. And that will be a factor in our study trying to extend the Bay Trail and the Great Redwood Trail South from Eureka to the College of Redwoods, because that goes right across the mouth of the bay. And so that's going to require some really careful consideration, both kind of in the near term and then for the long term. Definitely got eyes wide open about sea level rise.
Awesome, wonderful. So kind of continuing the Humboldt Bay portion of the Great Redwood Trail, there were several questions about the Manila portion of the trail and the Manila Trail as well. So what are the future plans for connectivity all the way around Humboldt Bay, going through Manila and over to Samoa? One person pointed out in their question or comment that on some of the maps it didn't seem like that portion of the trail was included in the Great Redwood Trail. So just some clarifying questions there about what's planned in Manila and Samoa.
Really good question, and Karen can chime in, and please correct me if you think I'm wrong. So what the plan is this. The public will have ownership of the entire 320 miles. So in Marin and Sonoma, the rail is actually going to be owned by SMART Public Agency, and that's what Karen was saying, we're going to be building the trail alongside rail. Everything from the Mendocino County line to Samoa will be on public ownership through the Great Redwood Trail Agency. So the plan is going to be moving that trail to the peninsula. And in fact, as you know, that's where the former rail yard is as well. So that is the plan, and that's going to be part of the master planning process that we're going to be taking a look at as we move forward. But being able to move into the peninsula is what's on the books at this time. Karen, anything you want to say?
Yeah, I would agree, and there is, I realized when I heard about that question that there was a map up on the Friends of group that didn't show the trail going out onto the peninsula, and that was just an error. It showed them going, up Annie and Mary, and it didn't show the loop around the top. So all the maps you will see from now on will include the entirety of the line which goes out onto the Samoa, to the terminus of the ownership.
Hank, do you have any additional clarifying thoughts about Manila and future plans? Part of this was, is there any extension plan for the Manila Trail as well?
There's no active plan to extend between Arcata and Manila, Samoa now, but with the rail banking imminent and the Great Redwood Trail starting their master plan, that can really be a point of focus. And I think there's an opportunity for community members who want that to be a priority to participate and explain how valuable that would be. Because, like I mentioned, Manila's been split by the state highway. You've got Manila and Samoa separated, really dependent on the highway. And so the Great Redwood Trail is really a logical new infrastructure to provide alternatives to the highway and really make those communities connected.
Great, awesome. There's a question about the Great Redwood Trail and how it'll incorporate wildland firefighting efforts or support wildland firefighting.
It's a great question, and it's one of the tough questions that we receive is, number one, if it's okay with the supervisor-elect, I'd like to be able to address two of the top questions or concerns that we hear. So number one, and rightfully so, is on the issue of wildland fire. So as part of the master planning process, we're going to embed a wildland safety study into the master plan, so that we're able to work with private landowners and public landowners and how we're going to be able to mitigate wildland fire risks. And I'm just going to be really blunt about it. Under NCRA, the North Coast Railroad Authority, they were way behind, years behind, on taking care of the rail corridor, especially when it comes to vegetation management and weed abatement, and that is going to need to be able to change, and we know that. That's something that we're going to need to be able to build into the budget, and that will be part of that master plan process as well, what that's going to take. The second piece on wildland fire is that we also believe that we should be seeing additional wildland fire safety cameras out on the trail, right? Just like what we see that's been deployed by CAL FIRE or Department of Fish and Game or PG&E, you're going to see that as well. And what we also know is there's going to be enhanced access in some of the more remote areas when it comes to wildfire safety. I want to talk about the 3 causes for some of the largest wildfires in the state: lightning, cars, and PG&E, not trail users. I know that I've heard a little bit about that, right, when we are having some meetings with landowners, but I just want to make sure that we're also addressing the facts. But we have to address it. It is an utmost concern for all of us up here, and that's what you're going to see. The second piece is we hear folks say, and this is not my belief, and I've seen a question in there, and please push back on me, Supervisor-elect, but some folks say this is going to become, quote, the homeless highway. And I'm going to say, quote, hogwash. So look, it is, if we take a look at the coastal trail, we do not have significant encampments on the coastal trail. We do have a homelessness crisis, and the state is investing $12 billion last year, this year, and next to be able to start combating the homelessness crisis for permanent supportive housing. Plus, we're advancing Care Court that would implement, and I know this could be controversial, up to 24-month conservatorships for individuals who may have some type of psychosis and or addiction or both. But what I will say is I don't think an individual who lives in Ukiah, who has all of their worldly belongings with them, is going to be taking a 160-mile trek with all of their belongings to Samoa. It's not going to happen. And I want to get to the third point is security. Also part of the master plan process, we're going to be looking at security. What type of partnerships can we have with state parks? What type of partnerships can we have with the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office, as well as the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office? And you're going to see a trail stewardship program launched so that we have individuals out on the trail, right, a set of eyes on the trail consistently. But again, I just think we need to study it. It's going to be part of the master planning process, and we are absolutely committed to wildfire safety and security on the trail. Karen?
I think once again you just about covered it, Mike. But yeah, I would say the master plan, the consultants will be pulling together the best practices from trails across the country for dealing with these issues. These are not, new issues or concerns, right? We hear these up and down the state, and we hear them across the country. So they are going to be providing us with a list of best practices for how to do that. And I would also just say that, your Humboldt Trail Stewards is an excellent example of what we're going to be looking forward in terms of more eyes on the trail as it gets constructed. The Great Redwood Trail Agency is not going to construct 160 miles of trail, right? I mean, it's going to be done as we're seeing it being done, with communities stepping forward, with groups stepping forward to help build the segments that are nearest and dearest to them, and we will be building out from that. So we're going to need all of you to participate as we move forward, both in the planning and the subsequent, trail monitoring and stewarding, and we really hope you'll stay engaged.
I'll just say that I mentioned earlier how our trail culture is evolving and we're learning how to do trails better. And I think part of that is recognizing that neighboring property owners have unique concerns. And a lot of people love trails, but not necessarily on the other side of their fence line. And that really requires good dialogue, understanding the issues, whether it's drainage, whether it's security, whether it's vegetation, and trying to find solutions. And I think the Conservancy's investment in engagement and master planning is really prudent and wise, especially with the adjacent property owners, and that will really pay off in terms of fitting these trails that are compatible with the neighboring properties.
Awesome. So we have a question about whether there are any viable ways to have passenger rail from Humboldt County to more populous parts of the state. And I know this question certainly comes up a lot, and I wonder what your thoughts are on it.
Absolutely. Thinking for some perspective, this rail line has sat vacant for nearly 3 decades. 30 years. I've personally met with 5 or 6 freight rail operators, and they can't make a go at the business. Now, part of it is developing through the Eel River Canyon and just being going to give you my opinion. There is no way in hell that a freight rail is ever going to start through the Eel River Canyon ever again. It is some of the most unstable geologic conditions on Earth. And just being honest about it, there isn't the business case to be made. And whoever were to start up that freight operation would have to pay to be able to construct and improve to modern conditions for freight. We also know that there's a tunnel, I'm going to get back to the issue on the skunk train, that has collapsed between Fort Bragg and Willits. It's $30 million to fix. It's a private line, and they can't afford to fix it. So that's just one tunnel. There are challenges up and down this line that we can work around with a backcountry trail, but you're not going to be able to work around it with a freight rail that has dozens of cars, if not over 100 cars going north and south every day. So if there was a viable option, I firmly believe we would have seen it happen already. And by the way, under rail banking, per federal law, that if a viable operator comes forward and says, yes, we can have a viable freight rail operation, we have to take the trail up. By federal law. I'm going to give the statistic, though, one more time. 25,000 miles of former freight line in the United States have been transitioned since the late 80s to trail. Less than 100 miles of that line has ever been transitioned back to freight. And the last thing I'll just say, there is no connection to the national rail system. So you have to be able to get down to the Sonoma County Airport, as smart as building north, to even connect to the national rail system. So even if someone wanted to be able to start up a freight line, let's just say in Ukiah, they're going to run it from Samoa to Ukiah, and they can't get it south to where the goods need to go because there's a gap from the Mendocino County line to the Sonoma County Airport. So just some perspective. That said, we look forward to working with anyone or everyone, and I don't want to put words into Karen or Hank's mouth if there's someone, but I'm just going to be honest. There is not. We beat back the coal train, and they're the only ones that had the deep pockets to potentially do something like this, and we beat them back thanks to each and every one of you, and we're going to continue working that. But Hank, any comment on that? You covered it. All right, Karen. Holy crap. All right.
Thank you so much. So part of my role is to keep us on time. There are some more questions that are about specific local trails or questions that folks can take to the tabling. So I want to start or transition us by thanking all of you for being such incredibly strong doers and advocates. The three of you are champions of trails in our region, and we truly couldn't do it without you. So I'm so grateful to each of you. Let's have a huge round of applause for these three. Thank you so much. Wonderful. So there were a couple questions about the Beta Zoo Trail, which I can help answer in the back of the room once we transition. There were some questions about the Humboldt Bay Trail that weren't able to be answered, or the McKay. So Hank will be here, and folks will be here from the county to answer those. There was a question about the city of Arcata. I know we have Emily here from the city to answer those. So I'm going to give us kind of a transition plan into the next portion of our summit. So we really do have wonderful presenters here in the back tabling, and I want to tell you real quick who they are so you know who's there as a resource. Because I know sometimes you walk in and you start socializing and it gets hard to kind of go and talk to who you want to ask questions of. So we have the County of Humboldt, Caltrans District 1, Trinidad Coastal Land Trust here talking about the Little River Trail, Latino Outdoors, Mike Sipper from Friends of the Dunes talking about the Samoa Dunes and Wetlands conservation efforts, Rio Del Trail, the Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association, McKinleyville Community Services District, Humboldt Trails Council and the Volunteer Trail Stewards if you want to get engaged with that. City of Arcata with information about that Annie and Mary Connectivity Trail. I know that was one of the questions that came up, so please seek out Emily for that. Friends of the Annie and Mary Trail, and I think that is it. Did I miss anybody? And there are, oh my gosh, there are cookies. Thank you. As a reminder, there are a lot of amazing cookies. If you missed it before, they were made by Eureka High's culinary program, and they are delicious. So please take some cookies with you. We're almost done here. So I want to remind you there's a photo booth near the front where you can take a photo, share it with your friends or family, showing your love of trails. And please stay, enjoy, and we'll need to wrap up around 11:45. All right, thank you.